What's going on, truckers? If you don't got time for this long video today, want to give it to you straight right here. A memo came out yesterday basically saying that President Trump wanted to pause and freeze on all federal grants. You know, what the hell does that have to do with trucking? Well, I'm going to tell you this. You know, the federal grants that he wants to pause, a lot have to do with the EPA. And the EPA has been giving grants for two things. One, to subsidize and get these trucking companies to trade in their diesel trucks for zero emission electric trucks. And the other is for programs that they give money to OEMs and programs out there to build an engine that is going to be more zero emission, right? And these things are important because the EPA has been using these grants to force feed and force the trucking industry to try to go electric when the infrastructure is not there, and force OEMs to build a motor that's not great. You know, I interviewed companies like RBX that bought like 90 trucks and they all were brand new and they had problems from the get-go. And it's just one of those things where I'm not saying OEMs aren't a fool to blame, but these programs that the EPA pushed down their throats, telling them that they got to build a motor that's going to meet these new guidelines. You know, that's where these DPF filters, that's where all this jazz that just wasn't great for trucking came from. You know, when people say, man, old school cat motor is better than what they have now, is 1000% true. And because when you're trying to build something to meet a guideline versus building something that's great for what it's supposed to do, of course it's going to break down. It was supposed to happen 5 p.m. Tuesday, but a judge did put a pause on this. A lot of blue states got confused, got nervous, and was like, what's going to happen to all the food stamps, to the Head Start programs, and to all the people that are getting federal money? Well, in this, we're going to talk about those confusions and what they really are, but it has taken a pause for a second. So Trump's not doing this quite yet, but it looks like it's going to get done. So let's get into today's video. What's going on, my truckers? Welcome to My Trucking News. Email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com. You know, have you guys been paying attention to what's going on in America? You know, so first thing first, Caroline Leavitt, you know, the youngest White House press secretary, just did her briefing.
See all of you. It's an honor to be here with all of you. A lot of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. And President Trump is back, and the golden age of America has most definitely begun. The Senate has already confirmed 5 of President Trump's exceptional cabinet nominees: Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
This has just been confirmed. Sean Duffy has been confirmed as the new Department of Transportation Secretary, and it says that he will lead the U.S. Department of Transportation by a vote of 77 out of 22 on Tuesday, January 28th, and the Senate approved President Donald Trump's nomination of former congressman. So we all talked about this. He doesn't have extensive background in trucking specifically, but let's see how this guy operates. First, to just bring it up to light, there was a 2-page memo that came out that was leaked like late last night. And basically what stated was that President Donald Trump would pause grants, loans, and other federal assistance, according to a leaked government memo later confirmed by the White House. In this 2-page memo from the acting head of the White House Budget Office, instructs agencies to temporarily pause all activities related to obligations or disbursement of federal financial assistance. And so many blue state government officials were just in outrage and said that they were going to sue the administration for doing this because this would stop funding for so many Americans in America.
Families who rely upon Head Start for childcare, to the children across the country who depend on SNAP for their next meal, to the seniors who rely on state services to get the care that they need. This policy will disrupt the lives of millions of Americans in New York and nationwide.
We are into governing, not panicking. And as I said, I'm not playing whack-a-mole with every single initiative that comes out of Washington. I have to govern a state.
So this was supposed to start at 5 p.m. today, and a federal judge just came in and temporarily blocked it. Now, during the White House briefing today, questions were asked, what did this mean by this memo to just block all federal grants? And this is what was stated.
Exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some of the confusion, give some certainty to folks? And also, is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars.
Now, what is this Green New scam that she says? That is actually the Green New Deal that she's talking about here. And for the people that don't know what that is, let me give you a quick summary of it. It says here, what is the Green New Deal explained? Early efforts in 2006, a Green New Deal was created by the Green New Deal Task Force as a plan for 100% clean, renewable energy by 2030, utilizing a carbon tax, jobs guarantee, free college, single payer healthcare, and a focus on using public programs. So let's focus this on the trucking industry. This Green New Deal, which is spearheaded by the EPA, basically was going to be the end of the trucking industry. We made so many news reports how the DPF filters and how California pushing at the time to have all diesel trucks by 2042 to be all zero emission, which is impossible to do, would put out so many people out of jobs, and which actually by 2024 of last year, they wanted all the port truck drivers to be zero emission as well. And so it's just one of those things where they were pushing the Green New Deal down the transportation industry's throats. Right now, cars, of course, were involved with this as well. But in this specific memo, which talks about the federal grants that were given. So let's break down how all this really plays out, right? So the EPA spearheads this Green New Deal, trying to be zero emissions by 2030. Clearly, California, they wanted to push it further and make all vehicles zero emissions by a certain year, and all diesel and heavy duty trucks zero emission by 2042. It was just destroying the trucking industry and all the hardworking Americans, right? And I bring this up all the time. It's not that truck drivers hate electric vehicles, is that when you are paying off your hardworking diesel truck and someone says you can't use it anymore, that's going to piss you off. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? But here's the thing. What EPA grants are going to be affected by this. I know there's a halt on this, but he's going to get this pushed through a slew of EPA grant programs. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I want to go through two that specific to the trucking industry. One is air grants and funding. So air grants and funding, what this is it says EPA's Office of Air Grants and Funding announces grants and rebate opportunities for projects and programs related to air quality, transportation, and climate change, indoor air, and other related topics. So it's a rebate, right? EPA rebate programs are payments from EPA to an eligible entity to subsidize a purchase, right? And it says eligible items are determined through a combination of just authorized statutes and programs guidance. But it gives the example right here. So the rebate may apply to purchase of a clean school bus or charging equipment. So what is this right here? This is the EPA giving grants that are just pushing down trucking companies' throats to go electric and saying, hey, if you give us your diesel truck, this big bad wolf, we will subsidize and give you this electric truck. And they don't totally give it to you. They basically say it's going to be a lot cheaper. And so they try to push it down a trucking company's throats and say, look, why don't you take this fleet of 15 Tesla semi-trucks and you're going to get a way better deal on this than you would diesel trucks. And so they do it for PR reasons, but at the end of the day, they're just pushing something that doesn't have the infrastructure, right? And here's the second one. So the second one, that's a big one right here, is the National Clean Diesel Campaign grants and funding. So building diesel engine emission reduction programs across the country to improve air quality and protect public health. So building diesel engines. This is a grant right here that says EPA is authorized under the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act to offer funding assistance to accelerate the upgrade, retrofit, and turnover of legacy diesel fleets. So this was pretty much, you think about it, right? The start of DPF filters, the start of all these motors that are coming out that people are having problems with. And I don't want to blame the OEMs themselves. Maybe they are a part to blame on this, but when the EPA is pushing it down the OEMs to say, hey, you have to have a cleaner motor because by this year, 2030 or 42 or 45 or whatever it is, you're going to have a zero emission motor. It just keeps on pushing these OEMs to make engines that are breaking down. I did an interview at RBX, and they went Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Why? They went Chapter 11 bankruptcy because they ordered some trucks and they kept on breaking down. And the reason for that and why people say older trucks are better is because of that. It's because the EPA is giving these grants and pushing it down these OEMs to put together programs to make an engine that's not really that great, but they're just doing it to get to their Green New Deal target of zero emissions. So, these federal grants that President Trump wants to put into effect to pause, this is big stuff right here. I don't know if it's going to turn back and now you're going to be able to drive and buy glider kits and take off your DPF filters and delete your trucks. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I don't know where this is really going, but I will say that the funding from the EPA to almost force these trucking companies and OEMs to go greener and go that direction faster than it needs to, that sounds like it's going to end. So I think overall it's going to be really great for trucking, right? So my truckers, comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts about this are. But man, some bold moves here.